Did you know that the Sanhedrin knew Jesus was the Christ 7 years before his crucifixion, in 23 AD? Discover the hidden truth behind this astonishing revelation. Welcome, friend. Today, we're diving into a fascinating historical claim that the Sanhedrin, the highest council of Jewish leaders, already knew Jesus was the promised Messiah when he was around 26 years old. Let's uncover the significance of this claim together. During Jesus' ministry, he faced immense skepticism and opposition, particularly from the religious leadership of the time. The Sanhedrin, composed of ultra-religious Jews, the Pharisees, and the ruling elite, the Sadducees, was deeply entrenched in their traditions, heresies, and laws. Despite their own internal differences, some members had compelling reasons to believe Jesus was indeed the Messiah, and was fulfilling numerous scriptures. But why, despite their knowledge, did they still oppose him during his ministry and eventually seek his crucifixion? The answer lies in a complex interplay of power, fear, and prophecy. Let's look at the evidence. The Archko Volume, a controversial collection of ancient documents, includes the Gamaliel interviews. Gamaliel, a respected member of the Sanhedrin, was a learned teacher of the law and a respected Pharisee. He was also the mentor to the Apostle Paul. According to the Archko Volume, his task was to carefully document the evidence for Jesus being the Messiah, which all of the Jews were waiting for, including speaking to Jesus himself. The promised Messiah was well documented in the Torah, and there had been many false Christs making the claim of kingship, so each credible case needed to be professionally investigated. Many Torah texts with prophecies about the Messiah align closely with the life and mission of Jesus. These scriptures were well known to the Sanhedrin, and many signs pointed directly to Jesus as the fulfillment of these prophecies. Gamaliel was chosen as the right man for the job. Perhaps surprisingly, Jesus remains one step ahead of Gamaliel at all times, and he is unable to meet him. Other documents and myths reveal at this age, around 26 years old during this investigation, Jesus is either visiting Glastonbury, England with his uncle, Joseph of Arimathea, or visiting India. A less interesting option is that Jesus knew full well that Gamaliel was trying to track him down, and was simply remaining out of sight. Gamaliel's documented testimonies are therefore from those people he was able to speak to and who knew Jesus personally. These interviews reveal astonishing insights. So, let's get into the interviews. We start by exploring his meeting with Mary, his mother, and Joseph, his stepfather, with old man Massalian, who watched Jesus grow into a young man, and with Jesus' female friends, sisters Mary and Martha. First up, Gamaliel catches up with Mary and Joseph. I found Joseph and Mary in the city of Mecca, in the land of Ammon or Moab. But I did not find Jesus. When I went to the place where I was told he was somewhere else, and thus I followed him from place to place, until I despaired of finding him at all. Joseph is a woodworkman. He is very tall and ugly. His hair looks as though it might have been dark auburn when young. His eyes are gray and vicious. He is anything but prepossessing in his appearance, and he is as gross and glum as he looks. He is but a poor talker, and it seems that yes and no are the depth of his mind. I am satisfied he is very disagreeable to his family. His children look very much like him, and upon the whole I should call them a third-rate family. Joseph describing Jesus. So I married Mary, thinking that if what the angel had told us was true, it would be greatly to our advantage. But I am fearful we are mistaken. Jesus seems to take no interest in us, nor anything else much. I call him lazy and careless. I do not think he will ever amount to much less be a king. If he does, he must do a great deal better than he has been doing. Gamaliel draws a strong conclusion from talking to Joseph, but has kinder words for Mary. I discovered that all Joseph's ideas were of a selfish kind. All he thought of was himself. Mary is altogether a different character, and she is too noble to be the wife of such a man. She seems to be about 40 or 45 years of age, abounds with a cheerful and happy spirit, and is full of happy fancies. She is fair to see, rather fleshy, has soft and innocent-looking eyes, and seems to be naturally a good woman. I asked her if Jesus was the son of Joseph. She said he was not. I asked her to relate the circumstances of the child's history. She said that one day while she was grinding some meal there appeared at the door a stranger in shining raiment, which showed as bright as the light. She was very much alarmed at his presence, and trembled like a leaf, but all her fears were calmed when he spoke to her. I asked her if he was healthy, to give me a description of his life. She said he was perfectly healthy, that she never heard him complain of any pain or dissatisfaction. His food always agreed with him, that he would eat anything set before him, and if anyone else complained he would often say he thought it good enough, much better than we deserved. She said that Joseph was a little hard to please, but this boy had answered him so often, and his answers were so mild and yet so suitable, that he had almost broken him of finding fault. She said he settled all the disputes of the family, that no odds what was the subject or who it was, one word from him closed all mouths, and what gave him such power was his words were always unpretending and spoken as though they were not intended as a rebuke, but merely as a decision. I asked her if she had ever seen him angry or out of humor. She said she had seen him apparently vexed and grieved at the disputes and follies of others, but had never seen him angry. I asked her if he had any worldly aspirations after money or wealth, or a great name, or did he delight in fine dress, like the most of youth. She said that was one thing that vexed her, he seemed to take no care of his person. He did not care whether he was dressed or not, or whether the family got along well or ill, it was all alike to him. She said she talked to him about it, and he would look at her a little grieved and say, "Woman," for such he always called me, "you do not know who I am." I asked if she saw in him any particular fondness for female society. She said she had not, if anything, rather the contrary. That the young Betha, the word in the Hebrew for young women, were all very fond of him, and were always seeking his society, and yet he seemed to care nothing for them, and if they appeared too fond of him, he treated them almost with scorn. He will often get up and leave them, and wander away and spend his time in meditation and prayer. He is a perfect ascetic in his life. Gamaliel thus concludes his interview with Jesus' parents. Thus it seems that Joseph and Mary have both lost all confidence in his becoming anything. They seem to think that the Sanhedrin should do something for him to get him out and let him show himself to the people. I tried to console them by telling them that my understanding of the prophecy was that he had to come to the high priesthood first, in their work in the spiritual dominion of the heart, and when he had brought about a unity of heart and oneness of aim, it would be easy enough to establish his political claim, and all who would not willingly submit to him, it would be an easy matter with the sword of Joshua or Gideon to bring under his control. It seemed to me that his parents' ideas are of a selfish character, that they care nothing about the Jewish government nor the Roman oppression. All they think of is self-exaltation, and to be personally benefited by their son's greatness. Gamaliel then learns about an old man, well acquainted with Jesus. His parents told me of an old man who lived on the road to Bethany who had once been a priest, a man of great learning, and well skilled in the laws and prophets, and that Jesus was often there with him reading the law and prophets together. That his name was Messianic, and that I might find Jesus there. But he was not there. Messianic said he was often at Bethany with a young family, and he thought there was some love affair between him and one of the girls. I asked him if he had seen anything like a courtship between them. He said he had not, but inferred from their intimacy and from the fondness on the woman's part, as well as from the laws of nature, that such would be the case. I asked him to give me an outline of the character of Jesus. He said that he was a young man of the finest thought and feeling he ever saw in his life, that he was the most apt in his answers and solutions of difficult problems of any man of his age he had ever seen, that his answers seemed to give more universal satisfaction, so much so that the oldest philosopher would not dispute with him, or in any manner join issue with him, or ask the second time. I asked Messianic who taught him to read and interpret the law and the prophets. He said that his mother said that he had always known how to read the law, that his mind seemed to master it from the beginning. The interview concludes. He stated further that Jesus was a young man who was the best judge of human nature he had ever seen. That he thought at times he could tell men their thoughts and expose their bad principles. And while he had all these advantages of life, he seemed not to care for them nor to use them abusively. He seems to like all men, one as well as another, so much so that his own parents have become disgusted with him, and have almost cast him off. But Jesus has such a peculiar temperament that he seems not to care, and is as well satisfied with one as another. He said that Jesus seemed fond of Mary and Martha, who lived at Bethany, and probably I might find him there. Gamaliel is a man of very deep thought and most profound judgment. All his life he has made the scriptures his study. He, too, is a good judge of human nature, and he is satisfied that Jesus is the Christ. After this, Gamaliel heads over to Bethany to meet sisters Mary and Martha. I went from there to Bethany, but Jesus was not there. They said he and Lazarus were away, they could not tell where. I went and saw Mary and Martha, the sisters of Lazarus, and had a long talk with them. They are very pleasant and nice young maids, and Mary is quite handsome. I teased her about Jesus, but they both denied that Jesus was anything like a lover. He was only a friend. Though this is so common for young maids, I did not know whether to believe them or not until I told them my real business. I told them that this was the same person that was born of the Virgin in Bethlehem some 26 years before, and that his mother had told me all the facts in the case. They seemed deeply interested. They then told me upon their honor that Jesus never talked or even hinted to either one of them on the subject of marriage. Martha blushed, and said she wished he had. I asked them what he talked of when in their company. And they said he was not much in their company. That he and their brother would go upon the housetop and stay there half the night, and sometimes all night, talking and arguing points of interest to them both. Mary said she had often gone near, so she could listen to them, for she loved to hear him talk. He was so mild and unpretending, and then was so intelligent that he was different from any and all other young men she had ever seen. I asked them what was their brother's opinion of him. They said he thought there never was such a man on earth. According to Lazarus, he said when they are out in the mountains, as they are most all the time, Jesus can tell him all about the flowers, trees, and rocks, can tell him everything in the world, and that none of the wild animals are afraid of him. He says often the stag and the wolf will come and stand for Jesus to stroke their mane, and seem almost loath to go away from him. He says that no poisonous serpent will offer to hiss at him. Their brother thinks he is perfectly safe if Jesus is with him. I asked them if he had ever told their brother anything about himself. They said that if he had spoken to their brother he had not told them. Now, masters of Israel, after having investigated this matter, after tracing Jesus from his conception to the present time, after obtaining all the information that is to be had on this important subject, getting it from those who are more likely to tell the truth from the fact they are disinterested persons, and then taking a prophetical as well as a historical view of the subject, I have come to the conclusion that this is the Christ that we are looking for. And as a reason for my conclusion, I will call your attention to the following facts. First, to the prophecy of Isaiah, section 7. And he said, "Hear now, saith the Lord. O, house of David, is it a small thing for you? Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name God with men. Butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and choose the good. For before the child shall know to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land that God abhorreth shall be forsaken of her king." Section 8. Bind the testimony. Seal the law among his disciples. The Lord will hide his face from the house of Jacob, and he will look for him. Here is a literal fulfillment of this word of the Most High God, so clear and plain that none may mistake. Gamaliel continues, Micah, section 5. Thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, thou art little among the thousands of Judah. Out of thee shall come forth unto me him that shall rule my people. He is from everlasting, and I will give them up until the time she travaileth to bring forth my firstborn, that he may rule all people. Here we have the city, the virgin, the office, his manner of life, the seeking him by the Sanhedrin. All these things are under our eyes as full and complete as I now write them, who have all this testimony given in this letter. How can we as a people dispute these things? In the 49th section of Genesis, making reference to the history that is now upon us, the writer says, "A captive shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawmaker from him, until Shiloh come, and gather his people between his feet, and keep them forever." Gamaliel draws an astonishing conclusion from all the facts he had gathered. That Jesus the son of Mary and Joseph was indeed the promised Messiah and the fulfillment of Scripture. This made Jesus the high priest, and king of the Jews. Direct threats to Annas and Caiaphas and to King Herod. Additionally, perhaps like his parents, they had expectations of him being some sort of David-like warrior king. When 4 years later Jesus' ministry started, he turned out to be not what was expected at all. He opposed them. See Matthew chapter 3 verse 7, Matthew chapter 12 verse 34 and Matthew chapter 23 verse 27, and seemed to side more with the hated Romans. The fact that the Sanhedrin had known Jesus was the Christ 7 years before his crucifixion highlights the complex dynamics of belief, power, and prophecy. This knowledge makes his crucifixion even more significant, as it underscores the profound impact Jesus had on those who opposed him and the threat he posed to their hold on power. Even down to one of the final and dramatic prophetic fulfillments with Caiaphas the high priest ordering his execution via Rome. What are your thoughts on this incredible historical revelation? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our other videos exploring the life of Jesus and biblical history. Thanks for watching.